Well, y'all just need to stop calling America racist. Stop calling America racist. America's not racist. I live in the state of Alabama.
I'm actually surprised I'm shocked. Like, legit, I'm surprised that my brain is still trying to process what happened last week. Because it shouldn't be. This country is built on hurting black people.
It has always been racism with these people.
I'm not making this video to start a race war. I'm making this video because I think one of the biggest reasons this country keeps ripping itself apart is because people have forgotten how to listen to pain without making it about themselves. And from the outside looking in, something I've noticed over and over again is that a lot of black people are not asking to be worshipped. They're not asking for pity. They're not asking for special treatment. A lot of the time, most of the time, they're just trying to explain what life has felt like for them and their families. And somehow, the second those conversations start, everything turns into a debate. No listening, no understanding, no curiosity, a debate. Are you sure it was racism? Well, that happens to everybody. Just get over it. My family struggled too. You're playing victim. You're dividing people. That was a long time ago. Just work harder. And it's like, damn. Can somebody speak about pain without immediately being cross-examined like they're in court?
Hello fam, how are you doing? I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Now, I really don't know what you'll think about this, but at the same time, I really don't know if it's guilt or if it's realization. White people just learning that they created a system that was meant to hurt black people. But what do you think? Do you think that this realization is coming to them because they are also right now going through the same thing? I mean, let's just be critical about this issue. I've just asked you the question, and I want you to help me, like, think critically and think inside this. White people are right now, they're realizing that their system was created to hurt black people. But the question that I'm asking is, do you think that they are getting this realization because they are also going through the same thing? That's just a question that I've asked. But now, brothers and sisters, it is really important that we talk about things that are really, really important. For the longest time, there have been silence when black people are going through difficult times. So many people decided to remain silent. I'm not saying that every other race remained silent, but majority of those races decided to remain silent, especially when black people were going through tough times. But the reality of the matter is this, and this is one thing that I want us to think deeply inside it. Right now, we're seeing people are getting a realization, or what we call a wake-up call, and learning that the system that they depended on was also meant to drain them. But I always like using the Bacchus Rebellion as my reference point. Why do I always use the Bacchus Rebellion as my reference point? Because it shows where the betrayal started. It shows where white people, they agreed to be bought so that they can remain silent, so that they can remain complacent when wrong things were happening in black people's life. Remember, these are a group of people that were offered an opportunity to live good life. But they did know that that wasn't going to last forever. The generation that we are having right now and what people are going through right now really shows that difficult part that should be talked about. So brothers and sisters, white people are caught in a situation that reminds them that whatever they did or what they did was wrong. And they're just getting to learn it. I really don't know what you'll think about this, but hey, I might be maybe petty. Somebody might say that that's petty, but let's just think critically inside this. Do you really think it's genuine? After so many years of remaining silent when black people are going through most of difficult things, well, in fact, they also participated in making lives of black people become so much difficult. When we just get to talk about that, when you just get to look at the reality of the things and just, measured everything and how everything went, you really think that that's really something to just look at lightly, per se. Well, I think this is that time when black people now needs to come out and stand strong and say that we ain't doing shit for you. Sometimes back, you wanted us to go on the streets for you, but when we were going through difficult times, you remained silent. And black people decided that we are not going on the streets for you. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think about this video. I will give you time to watch the video, see the points that some of these white folks are giving. I think it's also important for you to see that and make your own judgment. Let me know in the comment section. But in the meantime, let's watch the video. I'll be back with my thoughts in regards to this.
Has always been racism with these people. I need you to understand that the Civil Rights Act was only passed 62 years ago. The average age of the House is 57. The average age of the Senate is 64. The average age of the Supreme Court, which just dismantled the Voting Rights Act, leading to these map redraws disenfranchising black voters across red states, is over 65. The president was damn near a grown man when the Civil Rights Act was passed. The same guy who took out an ad advocating for the death penalty for the Central Park Five. Half these people in power are older than the civil rights legislation in the US. And do you think everybody just changed their minds and got along after it was passed? No. Businesses in the South shut their doors rather than serve black Americans. Public spaces like city and county pools closed down rather than integrate. Public schools shut down rather than integrate. You had shootings on public beaches in places like Texas, mob beatings in places like Georgia, police beatings across the country. We've had lawsuits about desegregation all the way up into the early 2000s in places like Texas. In the wake of Katrina, you had white people just taking pot shots and shooting at and killing black Americans in the street just for being outside and calling them looters. You've got people being found hanging from trees in modern times. We've got the media calling one group of people rioters and another group of people doing the same thing, but maybe even more violent, peaceful protesters, or just going on a guided tour. It has always been about discrimination, subjugation, and opportunity for a specific group. And to the women who voted for this, do not be shocked when the voices calling for an end to the 19th Amendment, which are on your side, start to get louder. Do not be shocked if a court case comes down the pipe and this time it's aimed at you. Because again, it's liberty, representation, and opportunity for one group. Just look at their slogan. First of all, America has never been great for everyone. But make America great again. The time frame they're talking about, it was only great for one group that looked like this. And we should be great. We should be the greatest country in the world for everyone here. But unless we get these people out of power and undo the damage they have done, we never will be.
White man from the South says they saw black people as pets.
As far as the colored people were concerned, I feel that they were a good bit happier than they are now. They had less in the way of material things. But I can remember back in their 20s, when I was a small boy, they were always singing at their work. They had a great sense of humor. And now today, they just don't seem to care much about that as they used to. And I think they've lost their sense of somewhat, which I deplore.
Mr. Hasty, what did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet. Something, or rather someone, we had to take care of. Because we had to do so much of their thinking for them. We had to do almost everything for them that, except living their own lives. Anything outside, we had to do for them.
Do you realize that the most racist scientific community ever were 19th century anthropologists? They're the ones that set up the race and this, and white male humans were at the top of the evolutionary ladder, and blacks and everybody else were lower, closer to the apes, and all of this. If you called someone Neanderthal, that was an insult. Like, they're still evolving. In the 1990s, now that we can do genetic tracking and things, the world found out that Europeans are between 1% and 3% Neanderthal genetically, and Africans are 0% Neanderthal. So in the 1990s, research papers started coming out talking about how creative and imaginative the Neanderthals must have been.
Stop looking at the people. Stay focused on your mission. Your time will come. And the difference is you'll still be there when they're gone. Because you're doing it the right way, the ethical way. And it's going to take you more time. Because you've got to Learn how to be focused with the noise all around you. You're always going to see people who are not doing things the right way seem like they're getting ahead. And what they're really doing is just using the principles. You operate in the principles, but keep your integrity and your intentions right. That is how you outlast, outplay. It's time, detail, and effort. Keep going. Stop looking to the left or the right.
I'm actually surprised I'm shocked. Like, legit, I'm surprised that my brain is still trying to process what happened last week. Because it shouldn't be. This country is built on hurting black people. The United States of America they'll if they hear that they can hurt a black person, they'll get it done in minutes. If they hear that they are going to help somebody, they'll have to set up studies. They'll have to have whole committee meetings about it, all this different shit. They got to the Voting Rights Act. They pulled out them old racist maps. They went, here you go. And in Alabama, they had tornado warnings going off. They could have been killed by a tornado, but instead they said, wait a second, before we run down to the shelter, we got to go get rid of black representation. In Tennessee, they went and destroyed the coverage of Memphis. In Mississippi, they are going to go use the building where they seceded from the Union. Because their current building's under work. They could wait. They could just wait until the building's ready. And in a lot of these places, they're suspending primary elections that have already started. And the thing is you go, okay, well, maybe the Democrats can push back. Well, I don't think you're missing a big part of the issue here. Which is that in this country, if you're a Republican and you want to hurt black people, there are no laws to stop you. But if you're a Democrat, you want to make anything better, not only do you have to be perfect, but every single court in the fucking country will show up and kick your shit in. Because that's what just happened today in Virginia. They set up a 10-1 remander, try to fix this shit to counteract Texas, and the Virginia Supreme Court said, no, how dare you? You can't possibly use the weapons of the enemy. We have to let it be perfect. Even though the voters chose in Virginia. The voters chose that map in Virginia. In Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi. God damn! What they had to do? Get a bunch of white men in suits and ties to go, boom, map's gone. They didn't have to hold an election. They didn't have to hold a fucking press conference. They didn't do any of that shit. And now who's going to suffer? Black people. Black people are going to suffer. And here's the thing I know about black suffering in this country. It trickles up. It trickles the fuck up to everybody else. Because the whole purpose of what the South wants to do right now is to reinstitute a hierarchy with just a few white families on the top and a bunch of dumb fucks stuck in the middle and an entire base of black people that those dumb fucks can look down on. That's where we are. That's where we've always been. But for the last 60 years, we had the veneer that we had moved past it. Enjoy your $2.50, America.
It's only been 1 week since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, and southern states have already undone decades of progress. Florida immediately jammed through new maps, even though they passed a constitutional amendment in 2010 against gerrymandering. Louisiana suspended their primary to push for new maps, even though 42,000 votes have already been cast. Tennessee Republicans just voted to break up Memphis and get rid of the only majority black district in the state. Alabama Republicans passed a measure to delay their primary if courts allow them to redraw maps. South Carolina Republicans are extending their legislative session to, you guessed it, gerrymander their maps. That's all in 1 week without Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. 1 fucking week. A single week and black Americans across the South are about to lose equal representation. It's almost like the entire civil rights movement was aimed at passing the Voting Rights Act for a reason.
See, black folks know why they're here. Native peoples know why they're here and how they got here. A lot of Asian folk know, particularly if they're Chinese American, they know they got here because their ancestors were brought over to work on the railroads by the railroad barons who didn't care if thousands of them died laying track 19, 20 hours a day. But for those of us who are from Europe, we have this fiction that we've told, and we believe it, even though there's no truth to it. You know what the fiction is? It's two parts. Number one, we say things like, with regard to Mexicans coming over the border, with regard to immigrants coming over, but only that border. That's the only one we care about, right? The southern border. I find that interesting. We're not flipping out about Canada, right? We don't have any of the Minutemen or the anti-immigrant groups sitting off the coast of Nova Scotia with a gun and a scope trying to pick off the sneaky Canadians that are trying to sneak in here for our superior healthcare system. which after all would be a pretty stupid thing to do. But in any event, we only care about that one border, forgetting for a minute that that border was created at the end of a war that was started on false pretense by this country, after which we jacked half of their country. And you weren't taught that in school either, because our history books aren't interested in telling the truth. They tell this very patriotic history that has no relationship to the fact. So that border is artificial. Mexican folk who are coming here, documented or not, let's be clear, are coming home. Their families were here before our families were here in almost every instance. But we forget that, and then we say things like, well, I don't mind them coming. I just want them to come legally like my people did. The hell does that even mean? Come legally? There was no law to break when our people came. The fact that we didn't break a law that didn't even exist, you don't get cookies for that. You don't get like a pat on the back and a gold star because your great whatever was law abiding when there was no law that he could have violated, even if he wanted to. But we've told this lie that we came for these upstanding principles. So we'll say things like, well, you know, our people came for liberty and freedom, democracy. These people are just coming for stuff. They're just coming for jobs. They're just coming for healthcare. They're just coming for stuff. We came for high-minded principle, right? Because we believe that. What kind of third grade version of American history is that, right? Like when Donald Trump says, well, Mexico's not sending their best. What the hell, you think Europe sent their best? Europe, no, our people were the losers of Europe. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, our people were the losers of Europe. The winners didn't get on the boat. You understand what I'm saying? The winners didn't leave. Why the hell would you leave if you were winning? Only the losers left because they had no choice. They were dying. They were starving. They couldn't support their families. A lot of them were convicts who were sold into indentured servitude to work for rich European people. They were barely above the level of a slave themselves. The idea that we had these we didn't believe in liberty and freedom. And we know that because once we got to the colonies, we set up the opposite of liberty.
Trigger warning, this video is going to contain positive information about white people. If you cannot handle that, do not watch any further. So this morning this simple fact came up, that we live in a world of nearly 8 billion people. And only 2 billion of those are white people. We are actually a minority. When compared to people of colour, we're a minority, yet we're excluded from the whole minority sort of classification. Now, why is this? How is it possible that we are actually a minority, yet we're not classified as a minority? Clearly, it's because we're doing well. We're doing well. That's not a bad thing. We are obviously doing well. We are doing so well, we've created the illusion that we are actually a minority when we're a majority, when we in fact are a minority. So what's contributed to this? Now, I've looked into this, I've observed different things about our culture and other cultures, and over years and years and years, and I've made these observations. So the first one is, a big thing is accountability, very, very big factor. When I was growing up, if I ever made any mistakes, if I ever did anything wrong, my parents would never say, oh, it's not your fault, oh, the system's out against you, you're okay, it's everyone else's fault. They would say, what happened? What did you do wrong? What are you going to do about it? Even as you get older, just say, hypothetically, I ended up in jail. My parents wouldn't say, oh, you're a victim, blah, blah, blah. They would say, what did you do? Oh, that's a shame. Why did you do that? What are you going to do about it? So as you're growing up, they would put the onus on you. Now, it wasn't through force either. It wasn't like my dad said, if you don't get an A, I'm going to beat you. So it wasn't like either do well or suffer. It was getting into our heads that everything we do in life and the result of everything we do, it comes down to us. We are ultimately the ones that decide our actions, and our actions determine what happens in life. So, and I could see this in a lot of families growing up, a lot of white families, where the parents would go, why'd you do that? Oh, that's a shame. Why did you do that? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Very important. What are you going to do about it? That's a very important point. So accountability, that's a very big thing. That's a strength in white people. I think it's one thing that's helped us to get ahead. The other thing is emotional stability. So again, just say someone called me a name at school, bad names, and I got upset and I went to run to my mother. My mother would say, did they hurt you? No. Well, just ignore them. Just ignore them and they'll go away. She would always say that. Just ignore them and they'd go away. What are you worried about a word? It's just a word. This might seem also insignificant, but as you're growing older, understanding that when someone insults you, even if it's a word you really don't like, it's only sounds coming from someone's mouth. And why would you put so much investment into the other person's opinion? Like if someone called you, for example, if someone called me a colonizer or a snow roach or a cracker, why would I put so much investment into their opinion to begin with? Like, why are you giving so much credibility to the person that's calling you bad things? They're a loser anyway. Ignore them. Who cares about them? What's important is how you receive that. And it's just words, so just ignore it. Be stable. Be emotionally stable. When you hear bad things, that's fine. You can hear bad things, no problem. That's no problem. It's not going to hurt you. You're grown up now. You have emotional stability. And this also definitely helps you pick your battles. So rather than when someone calls me a bad word, rather than kicking their head in or wanting to bash them, I will invest my energy into something more productive. This is not the right time. I'll only be violent when someone attacks my family or attacks me. I'm not going to be violent, because if I'm violent towards someone that's verbally insulting me, the only person I damage is myself. The only person I'm putting at risk is myself. So accountability and emotional stability are two very, very important qualities that I think are pretty, in white people, are one of our strengths. Those are two of our strengths. So these should be celebrated. And if you're a white person that doesn't have these qualities, these are definitely qualities you want to adapt.
This is a very racist society. I mean, it's pretty shocking. Remember what happened. The constitutional amendments during and after the Civil War were supposed to free African-American slaves. It did something for about 10 years. Then there was a North-South Compact, which essentially granted former slave-owning states the right to do whatever they wanted. And what they did was criminalize black life in all kinds of ways. Now, that created kind of a slave force. It threw mostly black males, but also women, into jail, where they become a perfect labor force, much better than slaves. If you're a slave owner, you have to keep your capital alive. If the state does it for you, it's terrific. No strikes, no disobedience, perfect labor force. A lot of the American Industrial Revolution in the late 19th, early 20th century is based on that. Actually, it pretty much lasted until the Second World War, when there was a need for what's called free labor in the war industry. After that come about two decades in which African Americans had a kind of a shot entering the society. A black worker get a job in an auto plant. The unions were still functioning. Maybe buy a small house, send his kid to college or something. By the 1970s or 80s, it's going back to criminalization of black life. It's called the drug war, which is a racist war. Ronald Reagan was an extreme racist, denied it. And the whole drug war, so-called, is designed from policing up to eventual release from prison to make it impossible for the black male community and more the women and more Hispanics to be part of the society. In fact, if you look at American history, the first slaves came in 1619, and that's half a millennium. There have been about 3 or 4 decades in which African Americans had a limited degree of freedom. You know, it's not entirely, but at least some. Now, of course, it's for black elites, there's some privileges, but I'm talking about the mass of the population, which has been recriminalized and incidentally also turned into a slave labor force.
Black people literally freed themselves from slavery. And don't try to argue with me in the comments like y'all did on Instagram. People say it was a war for the Union, states' rights, whatever y'all like to teach your children, but the Civil War was literally a war of rebellion and liberation way before the Emancipation Proclamation was even signed, just like the Haitian Revolution was. And the truth is that the Civil War was not about freeing slaves. And for Lincoln, who y'all like to say freed the slaves, and for Lincoln, it was all about the preservation of the Union. And y'all love to romanticize white people in the North because they didn't actually enslave, but they still profited off of banks financing plantations and equipment, insurance companies with policies on enslaved black people, the northern cotton mills depending entirely on slave labor for their supply of cotton. Also, a huge one, the transatlantic slave trade primarily came through northern state ports, which literally funded construction in the northern states and directly funded the endowment of all of these prestigious universities like Yale, Harvard, Brown, Princeton. Trust me, the North benefited from and profited off of slavery just like the South did. The economy was just different. A lot of states in the North wouldn't even let free black people live there. And if they did, there were so many restrictions and so many limitations living in the North that there were more freed black people living in southern slave states before the war even started. Now stay with me, I'm about to land. Black abolitionists Harriet Tubman, William Steele, and Frederick Douglass, between the three of them, freed over 1,400 slaves. And not to mention all of the other black abolitionists that we never hear or learn about. So after Lincoln was elected, but before his inauguration, southern states started seceding. They were leaving the Union. 4 of them, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and Texas, all literally cited slavery as the reason for them seceding from the Union. And I told y'all before, Texas is actually the only state that seceded from 2 different countries to protect slavery. But Lincoln said he literally had no intention of abolishing slavery. White people in the North didn't end slavery because of some moral code that they had. The protection of slavery and abolishing it were both just political pawns used by both white people in the North and white people in the South. And the only reason that Lincoln abolished it was because at this point, it was more convenient to do so in order to protect the Union. So the South wanting to disunion in order to protect slavery is ironically the reason that Lincoln had to abolish it altogether. If the Southern states had never started to remove themselves from the Union, it would have been generations before slavery ended in the U.S. And while y'all want to focus on the white people who fought for the North to free slaves, please do not overlook the hundreds of thousands of escaped slaves that stood behind Union lines to fight as well, and how their escape caused a humanitarian and an economic crisis. They alone are the only reason that emancipation was the only option. And one last thing, I'm going to tell y'all one last thing about the good white folk of the North, right? Those are the same people that manipulated black people to fight for the Union in the first place with the 40 acres and a mule nonsense. But that never happened, even all the way up until 2019 when Bill H.R. 40 was struck down in the House, meaning all the way up until 2019, y'all still refused to give descendants of enslaved black people the 40 acres and a mule.
Keep in mind when folks that look like me say things like, I'm tired of hearing about injustice and inequality and racism in the United States, remember that that very statement is a proclamation of the privilege that white folks enjoy in the United States, because white people can stop thinking at any moment about the issues of injustice, about the issues of inequality. They can busy themselves doing other things instead of thinking about racism. But black people in this nation never enjoy a moment of rest. They have to be vigilant 24/7, reminding themselves of where they are and what they are saying, monitoring their actions and their words and their nonverbals, especially in predominantly white spaces. Why? Because this nation has a history of violence being perpetuated against black people for perceived actions against the white dominant culture. And so remember that black people, in spite of all of the systemic racism that exists, in spite of all of the violence and the history of violence that has been perpetuated against them, in spite of all of the microaggressions and the blatant racism that is exhibited towards their bodies and their lives, black people continue to live lives of excellence. Just imagine if things were equal.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great. Again, from wherever you're watching me, again, I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories. It's always a beautiful day, it's always a beautiful time for us to have all this important discussion and put everything in place. The truth has dawned to everyone, and in as much as this might make them feel sad, now that they are realizing a couple of things that they ever did to like black people, you know, the truth of the matter is, no matter how much you feel, but black people are always just asking one question. Why is it that people start turning to black Americans when a reality hits, or when now they really need help with black folks? Why do you always think that that happens? Really tell me. Right. Somebody said that God is soon to enact his judgment on the United States for our wickedness and lack of humanity. 400 years plus of turning blind to God's written word. Judgment will begin at the White House and in the house of God. The world needs to repent of its sins. God is about to send a strong message to those who disobey him. And I think he's already doing that, because the moment we are seeing people getting to start to realize the things that they ever did to black people, I think it now makes sense. The numbers of the American military are down, and I mean way down. They don't have enough people to effectively fight anyone. People are tired of the American bully. The world is sick of America, and there is. And I think Americans themselves are also getting to see the truth about America. And white people that they were lied to about their greatness, their military might, and everything, this is all getting to be proven that it doesn't work that way. The ideology of white supremacy has always been freedom for me and not for thee. Your happiness at the suffering of others is evil and despicable. Revelation 18:24. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. That shows the collapse of the American empire, the downfall of America, and everything that's really happening. It is indeed eminent that America is drowning, America is falling, and they're just getting to know the truth. They're just getting to realize the truth. But it is just too late for them to just take things normally, because indeed it's really too late. Somebody said that Trump has said in front of cameras he does not care about the MAGA voters because the foot is on the neck. The foot is on their neck. It's now a conscious awakening. Teeny tiny awareness. No excuses. The time is now. They are finally distressed and bamboozled. Use your vote. Put the people that fight for you in place. It can't get worse. Vote at every election. Get them polls. Right. Just like their ancestors that fought a long, hard civil war, they actually fought so wealthy, could keep all the free slaves' labor, while they remained that poor. They never been very bright. I think it all goes down to the Bacons Rebellion and how I told you that white people were played. That's all that's all I gotta say about this. It's really sad, but that's just the truth. This is why black people are resting. We're letting it fail. The Most High told us to rest. What happened after a fight? You rest before your next day of training, healing, and building. After it fully fall, we have stuff to do. Black people are more in tune with nature, and each other than we remember. Right. So, it's really sad, but that's just the truth. And what we all need to understand as American, when the shit hit the fan, is anyone want me in their country? Will anyone trust me to sell with them our minerals, or want my companies in their country? These are all the questions that we as Americans need to ask ourselves. Racism is a global disease, and countries are getting very strict on doing deals with certain countries. I've read a lot of stuff online, and I see what's going on between France and countries in Africa, and it seems as if things have changed and colonial stuff doesn't work anymore. People are getting very smart and educated. Fear laws need to change. Right. Never you treat a person like you treat yourself, because you will suffer for it in the future. I'm going to reign and see what happens all over the world right now. And now people looking at us and think many countries in the global south doesn't trust anymore. Need to ask yourself what caused this happen. People are losing faith in America, and that's just the truth. You cannot control that. Right. It's hurting them now, but as soon as they think they are getting what they want, they'll be back to the same old thing before. They're not entirely true. Black people, despite not getting that 40 acre and a mule and facing segregation and Jim Crow managed by over 15 million acres of land, built homes, built towns and businesses and self-sufficient communities. And what happened when white society saw black people becoming prosperous despite all the obstacles they threw in the road? They stole it at the point of a gun or the law, or simply burned it to the ground or drowned it under the water without any compensation for what was destroyed. It wasn't until 1999 that even a small portion of what was stolen was being compensated for. It is really, really sad. It is really, really sad, right? If reparations were paid, all that money would have made the economy stronger, and there would be no debt for anyone because black people would have made sure everyone ate well. Businesses would have paid higher wages, and home would have been built for all races. There would be no longer period. Factories would be all over this country in record numbers. I mean, please let me know what you will think about this video. Right? As you know, I'm your host and present RAGED Stories. I want to say thank you for taking your time for watching this video. But until then, again, I'm hoping to see you on my next video. As you always know, this is the best place to be, the best place to know that we can all always learn. Until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.